I am Patty Hopper. I'm chairman of Task Force Omega. I'm also a research analyst. I am also the stepmother of Earl P. Hopper, Jr., shot down in North Vietnam on 10 January 1968. We have information about John Sidney McCain and things that he has been involved in as a prisoner of war. The framework, the groundwork for this is based on an article in U.S. News and World Report on 14 May 1973, authored by John Sidney McCain III, Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy. The important thing about this article is that it's John McCain himself writing the article. He was a lieutenant commander when he was shot down. 5.5 years later, he returned as a lieutenant commander. All prisoners of war were promoted right along with their peers. Depending on where he fell into the rotation, he should have come home as a lieutenant, or as at least one promotion, if not two. So he should have come home as either a commander or a captain. He did not. 3 months after he came home during Operation Homecoming, he documented his rank as lieutenant commander in this article. Further, in this article is very lengthy, very in-depth, and he discusses things that happened as a POW, to include 4 days after being captured, telling the guard that if he got the camp commander, he had information for him. The camp commander arrived. John Sidney told the camp commander, if you take me to the hospital, I will give you military information. He did. He gave losses off of 2 carriers, the USS Forrestal and the USS Oriskany. He gave the order of battle from Washington, D.C., through his father at Singpak, all the way into Saigon. He gave very, very specific information to include package routes, the flight paths that the pilots flew into North Vietnam. Package routes designate when you leave your base, the flight path and altitude you are to fly to your destination. You take care of your mission, you egress, you come out by another set flight path and altitude. With this information, the North Vietnamese moved in large numbers of anti-aircraft batteries and shot down roughly 60% more U.S. aircraft based on the information that John Sidney McCain voluntarily gave to the North Vietnamese. He was not tortured for this information. This is critical. Other American pilots, after they were captured and they were tortured for specific information, they gave false information. John Sidney McCain gave the real information, and it cost American pilots and air crews their lives. It cost others being shot down and in captivity. Some died in captivity, some made it home. But the information that McCain gave, and is well documented in his own words, is treason, plain and simple. After Operation Homecoming, the only thing that our government wanted from the Paris Peace Accords was the return of our prisoners of war. They were billed as heroes. They are human beings. Some were able to survive fairly well. Some weren't able to tolerate the treatment and cracked. That's life. That's human life. What John Sidney did was he gave aid and comfort to the enemy with giving absolute, real information. And that's wrong. He should have had charges filed against him. What happened was there were charges filed against specific POWs who did collaborate with the enemy. The service secretaries dropped those charges, saying, quote, they have suffered enough. There are heroes.
You spoke a little bit about the brotherhood, or what was it that you said, of the family? I forgot how you put it.
The family of POWs. Shortly before Operation Homecoming, the senior ranking officers in the greater Hanoi complex of prison camps understand that shortly before Homecoming, the Vietnamese started gathering all the POWs together. There were some 38 who had collaborated and were still collaborating with the Vietnamese. The senior ranking officers, the SROs, went to those men and said, if you will rejoin the family of POWs, if you'll follow the orders of the senior ranking officers, if you will stop giving aid and comfort and stop collaborating with the enemy, quote, what happened in the camps will stay in the camps. And of the 38, 30 of them rejoined the family of POWs. The 8 that did not were the 8 that were known as the Peace Committee. But the other 30, nothing ever happened to them. And this is how John McCain has been able to keep the other POWs quiet about his behavior in the camps. They're all honoring their commitment to each other. What happened in the camps stayed in the camps. There have been a couple of exceptions. John McCain went after Laird Gutterson, returned POW from Tucson, Air Force captain, who spoke out in support of the families and of the POW issue from the time of Homecoming forward. And at one point, a reporter asked John McCain about Laird Gutterson's opinions and the comments Laird had made. And John said, quote, oh, Gutterson's as crazy today as he was in the camps. At that point, Laird Gutterson said, the gloves are off. And he started talking about things that John McCain had done. There are some 38 broadcasts that John Sidney McCain made. We've got the transcript of one of them. We understand that the transcripts and the actual audio tapes are at Voice of America, but none of us have ever been able to get our hands on any of the actual broadcasts that he made. I know that Mark Smith has made the comment in discussions about Bobby Garwood. McCain was asked, what do you know about Bobby Garwood making comments and making audio tapes for the enemy? And Mark said, you know what? I never, ever heard a broadcast made by Bobby Garwood, but I heard plenty of broadcasts made by John McCain. Mark Smith was a Special Forces major captured at Loc Ninh late in the war, taken across the border into Cambodia, and held by the Vietnamese inside Cambodia. And he's part of the small handful that were released in Cambodia by the Vietnamese during Operation Homecoming.